Welcome to the March 26th OpenZFS production user call. We have Richard, Andrew, Stu, Dan, Greg, Jan, and myself, Michael, so far. And I learned just the other day that the key developers of OpenZFS are just fine with the dates proposed for October for the Developer and User Summit. It will be back in Portland. There are countless travel concerns around the world right now with requests as recent as yesterday, like, hey, move it to a neutral country. I'm like, okay, fine, but it's all for a bunch of specific developers plus guests. So it is looking to be, I believe it's October 25th through 28th, that Saturday through Tuesday. I do not have my calendar in front of me. And yes, there have been requests for it to be Vancouver, Canada, but I do not know the Latvian center there well, nor have a key to it. This creates one massive challenge, which is what to have for the updated logo. We did the welcome to Portland, welcome to Old Town, welcome to, it's had a whole bunch of names. White Stag sign last year, and oh, it popped up. A tech industry printer pointed out that the Portland seal is rather strange, with a woman with a trident with a bale of, I guess, wheat and a steamboat and a bunch of just strange imagery. So I'm like, no, let's not put that on there. Although if she was, I guess, working on a file system, we could maybe put her in front of a ThinkPad or something. Anyways, I'm open to ideas. There's a cute Portland sign in front of the Arlene Schnitzer concert hall that could go on there, but then I'm like, oh, how about just like, no, IKEA is very Portlandy. Come on. Yeah, so this is like the official Portland imagery. There's a wheel cog at the sledgehammer. Maybe the sledgehammer is good. It's like uh side wheel, paddle wheel, boat, and star over our
Maybe
head. Hmm.
maybe Photoshop JBot thinking into the port.
There you go. Oh, it's a pool. It's a Z pool. Oh, here we go. Anyway.
Oh, no, the lake is the pool. And we need a bunch of discs floating around.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm open to ideas there. And here's the official description. The female figure at the center of the seal represents commerce. When there's the sheaf of grain, a cogwheel, a sledgehammer for the origins. It's like, oh, really? The agrarian basin industry. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. How about like Intel Hillsboro? I don't know. Anyway, so yes, it looks like there will be a summit, and I'll make an official announcement as soon as I have some cute artwork. And my apologies if it's not in your country of choice. This came up recently, and someone indicated that they have not used ZFS diff, and ZFS diff is your friend. I am using an example from my laptop. I hope it doesn't reveal too much. Oh, it's scrolling past. After all these years, I've ended up with like one letter pool names and parent data set names, etc. And from a mentioned recent, say, newsletter that includes a certain animated movie. My wife and I worked on the newsletter, and suddenly there's like added new file. So there's a plus on the file, and then there is some metadata according to Mac OS. Here's a perfect example of like, okay, someone sent an image and these don't quite line up with the wrapping, but there's a plus in front of these. So those are new files on the file system, and you will see, I believe, an M for modified, a D for deleted, and the context is different forms of air quotes auditing. And of course, per MPAA Trusted Partner Network auditing, you want to know absolutely what everyone did at any time to your file system by the minute, to the second, yay. But for what I was doing, I was looking for hotspots in the file system. Thank you for that term, Greg. And for example, the Orgonietes materials directory lit up while working on it recently, and that's exactly what I was after. So I do suggest you get comfortable with that command, learn what it can and can't do. And I have this fever dream memory of a different, maybe Fletcher 4 uh, hash checksum setting giving different metadata, because with a fancier checksum, it could introduce more information. I've completely forgotten what that is, but I should investigate. If someone knows off the top of their head, please share. Any words in support of ZFS diff, gang? Has it solved a problem for you? Actually, yes, Greg.
Oh, I was just going to say I'll be trying it.
Great.
I don't have any input right now, but it sounds interesting.
And Dan, you were thinking, wait a minute. I mean, let's go back to like 1990 with rsync. Let's crawl the entire file system and look for A-time changes or maybe checksums, etc. And you have a fancy mode that does an actual checksum check for a true change as opposed to just A-time or modified. This tells you what you need to copy. So you could hack together a ZFS aware rsync that does not use rsync and is surgical in its precision, where it just says, hey, I know for a fact that this file is modified. How about we copy this one file rather than crawl the entire file system? Yes, Jan.
You would still massively benefit from using an async-like algorithm for determining what has changed within the file and potentially to dedup among the changed files if someone copied something over from this file to this file. So it's still worth using some brains rather than just SCPing the whole file.
True. And of course, thinking out loud, we've got block cloning now and some awareness. I don't know if that's tracked in any way, shape, or form, but
Yep, if you have a file where you know it's in this range in the same pool, you could use copy file range to insert a block clone reference. If you knew about that.
well,
But block cloning is not preserved across replication. So in some ways, this would give you better duplication behavior to do it in user space. But block cloning like this is also not concurrency safe. So you would have to have a locking protocol which ensures that there's only a single writer while you punch in the deduplications.
oh, good point.
Because if you have
Maybe,
concurrent modifications or of either the file you want to insert the deduplication into or the original copy, then you get Datensalat.
Okay. And nonetheless, no matter what you happen to do, even if it's some fancy archiving operation, totally different, at least ZFS is telling you where to go look as opposed to, what the true deep deduplicatable differences are. At least you're not checking every single file out there and hoping for the best and then eventually bumping into a match. So it's a cool feature. Give it a try. Uh, I trust there are some clever uses out there that haven't occurred to any of us. Stu, do you have any kick butt ZFS diff stories?
No,
Andrew?
not at this point.
Okay, give it a try. So, timely, and this doesn't apply to everyone, I apologize, but from yesterday's leadership call, Mav noted that these CI-friendly images that someone was producing were out of date until like 3 days ago. At least they're caught up. But surprise number one, the standard FreeBSD VM images, regardless of the OpenZFS factors, do not run in GitHub CI. So someone created custom ones, but the true goal is to have like either current snapshots or the latest version of OpenZFS built into them. And there is a port of OpenZFS that is completely unmaintained in FreeBSD land because, hey, people just use the releases and don't worry about the latest and greatest because, hey, they trust that it'll come along. And Tino, the person producing those GitHub-friendly images, added some raw format for, say, things like Beehive. But if anyone is a FreeBSD porter and is looking for a project, I suppose the port could get some love if Martin doesn't have the resources to work on it. I know nothing about why the FreeBSD VM images do not work in GitHub because, hey, GitHub is GitHub, and I don't think it has anything to do with their fancy actions that have been a long time discussion that need .NET and blah, blah, blah. But one could think you just package install OpenZFS and get the latest as opposed to use the in-base one. I will cover my points, and then, I don't know, Jan, if you have any thoughts there, let me know. But Tino is simply enabling a serial console, cloud init, and other stuff, and he shared the script kindly. Looking at the list, Jan or Dan. Dan, you know a
We
thing or
have
two about ports. Do you know anything about the history of the OpenZFS ports in FreeBSD or desires
the
or?
OpenZFS ports, as far as I know, were added when there was serious talk about replacing FreeBSD's de facto fork/downstream of Illumos with OpenZFS to make it
Okay.
easier to test OpenZFS without having to have both at the same time interchangeable in base. You just had a port, one for the commands and one for the kernel module. And after the migration, the use case for the ports was mostly, no longer relevant because as soon as it worked, people just didn't care because now we have the, at the moment, latest and greatest version, and it seems nobody went along and kept those up to date.
Mm-hmm.
So that we have a development port, which would definitely be nice to have. Like, have one for the latest release, so that you can update ZFS on FreeBSD without having to upgrade the operating system and wait for the next release to import it, especially on older stable branches. This could be nice to have. Because we're not, I assume, going to pull in, let's say, OpenZFS 2.5 into 14 something or in time. So yeah, having
Okay.
a and then having a OpenZFS development port just for testing the development snapshots and would also be good, just so that it's easier to perform regression tests um, against some whatever synchronization interval.
Amen. So yeah, the idea of spinning up, the latest, what was it, 2.3.1 without much trouble would be lovely. Any other thoughts, concerns, ideas? Dan, any insights from Ports Land?
I've never actually used the OpenZFS port. Um, not that brave.
Not that brave.
I used it on a test virtual machine only to find out that the FreeBSD bootloader did not yet support pools with encrypted data sets. So I installed it, turned on dataset encryption on some random test dataset, rebooted, and had an unimportable pool because this is a feature flag which makes the pool unreadable, not read only. And so, yeah.
Jan,
And
good
then I was a bit
point
pissed
there.
off, but I found a workaround by creating a little file system and then rerouting into that. Because that worked. It's only that the bootloader can't read it. It's not that the kernel couldn't read it once you had the actual kernel implementation and not the minimal bootloader read-only implementation of ZFS.
So do we know if the the FreeBSD bootloader makes any guarantees of supporting any version of OpenZFS that's not simply the one in base? I see how if you were to drop in the latest snapshot, you may find yourself not supporting new features. So those would need to be
Yeah,
synchronized,
don't
right?
upgrade your pool
Yeah,
past what the bootloader supports to read.
exactly.
That's the only guarantee the bootloader makes. Yeah, you could say it should make a better, give a better error message. Maybe say this feature flag prevents me
Hmm.
from, or these feature flags prevent me from importing the pool you asked me to import or something, rather than just no root file system or no pool found or something, or import failed. I didn't remember the exact error message, but it wasn't really helpful. It didn't tell me because of this feature flag, or just, yeah, failed to import.
Yeah. Hmm. And obviously, a motivation is to test the latest and greatest features, such that they may not be bootable until they're bootable. Um, just boot that sucker from UFS and do your pool work on a dedicated array. Anyway, um, other topics and super early summit requests, ideas, concerns. Other than dumpster fires for the logo. It was like one tiny trash can in front of one building. Come on. Let's see. Yes, Greg.
Sorry, I was
Don't
just going to
be.
ask, are you guys making a new logo for OpenZFS or something else? I missed
Oh,
that part.
sorry. No, the summits have always had a San Francisco inspired image, be it
Okay.
the big radio tower, I think last time, or the BART transit system, or the big tower at the airport. So I followed that tradition with Portland and used this, little welcome to Portland sign, and that suddenly created work for me to do and
There,
worry about.
there you go. I will.
Suddenly super
I
lazy, like, how about just IKEA? Go ahead.
I was gonna say I'll see my daughter could whip something up and I'll just forward it to you and you can use it or not or modify it or whatever. She's pretty artistic with that stuff.
That could be helpful, but it's just coming up with something Portlandy that isn't totally universal, like bicycles, coffee, and mountains and trees.
Right.
We do have specific bridges, I get it, but that's been so ridiculously overdone. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
let's have that conversation in parallel.
Okay.
And I'm not
Again,
sure how many of the bridges in Portland are particularly famous, but they would be recognized by someone who's not a local.
yeah, I know. See, that's where it's suddenly depressing. Okay, so if I go to the
Because I mean, there are
wiki,
like a handful of bridges in the world that are that famous.
exactly. Is this there's the summit for that? I've heard of that one. Maybe this might have examples of the cute artwork. Um, I mean, what,
Roses.
Portlandia? I mean, Slater Kinney. So here's the little Bambi from last year, but let's
Well,
see. Previous years.
you guys are known for your roses and craft beer.
Correct, but a lot of other cities have roses in craft beer. That's what's getting me. It's like, oh,
Fair
darn it.
enough.
I mean, how do you show extra hoppy in an image? So there's the radio tower that can be seen roughly from the airport in San Francisco, which is kind of south of town.
I like that one.
Yeah, kind of cool. And is this one? Ah, there we go. That's like the BART network system, a transit system with a map. That's kind of cool. Very. So yeah, uh-oh. Lumulus lupulus. Oh dear. I don't know if I can even pronounce what you've put in chat, but I'll gladly.
It's just a photo of hops.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
so yeah, it's like,
Yeah, and in Central Oregon, I worked on a little TV commercial for Mint, and someone declared, mint is like the ugliest plant ever. Let's not go with that. Like, oh, that's a strange wiki link. Let me try that. Okay, so
We can
20.
always get back to Sasquatch.
True, but that's a little more Oregon coast, eh?
Yeah, still,
I know.
I'm willing to accept it.
you just have a Bigfoot footprint over the top of the Z.
Okay. Uh, so there is that building in the Bay Area, which I'm not much of a Bay Area person, so I'm sure it's really nice and really important. Oh gosh, let's see.
Is that down on the waterfront?
Must be. And that's I guess at the airport, but it looks like the logo from a high school theater production of the big old Anything Goes, I think it was. So yeah, whoops, wrong one. Anyhow, uh I've lost track of this. Oh dear. Pull up, pull up. Anyway, so those who have a nice, completely naive view of Portland, feel free to give suggestions because anyone who lives there is like, I don't know, tense. Oh, but there's some also wonderful things. Anyway, other on topic ZFS topics. Here we go. Found my tab. Because that side paddle wheeler is just not going to be recognized by many. Let's see who's joined us. Steve, welcome.
How about a
You talk-
stump?
A stump. It was Stumptown, exactly, but I believe other cities have stumps. I could be wrong. Most Oregon towns and cities have plenty of stumps. Or there
But
is
yeah,
the
Stumptown kind of works for me.
cool and worse. Apparently, we had the world's smallest park, and then we recently got clobbered by another smaller, tiny park. So it's like, oh, Portland, you're slipping.
You had one that beats that little square in New York, or not,
Apparently,
or triangle.
apparently so. Uh-oh. Uh,
That's impressive.
Steve, do you have any topics? I can get over here. We're
Not
struggling
today.
for iconography for the upcoming logo now that we have tentative dates. Portland. Nothing? Oh. I mean, what you all, both half of you have I-5, I'm sure, passing through town. It's a West Coast thing. I mean, oh, gosh. Steve, any news, progress, or fun on the transcriptions? Hopefully, I suppose we should try to wrap those up before the next summit. And oh, look, people are suggesting the image I went with. Like, don't. Oh, Simpsons are out of Portland. There you go. We could get our pants sewed off for that. Never mind.
Yeah, I do have an update on that.
Yes, please,
So
because
I've
we're way off the rails here.
yeah, I ran all of them through Whisper X
Ooh, do
on
tell,
I think
yes.
Medium, and so they're they're all vastly improved. I think there's maybe 6 or so remaining. So that was several weeks ago. I've gotten distracted, but shouldn't take much to wrap them up.
So does this mean you have a trained data set that could be used elsewhere? Oh, thank you, Jan. Really helpful. Jeez. Um, so like in the Whisper directory, is there just some big old thing that could be handed around to other users?
So the Whisper X that I'm using, um, I'm trying to remember. I just run it. I just download it, run it, set it up. It uses Anaconda or something like that.
Okay.
But there's no training involved. Like the Whisper
Oh, really?
AI model was actually trained a long time ago, and so you choose which model based on your configuration. Like there's a base, small, and medium, and I kind of went down a rabbit hole because I didn't have enough memory on my GPU to run the large model,
Ah.
and hence I got distracted with graphics cards and whatnot. But honestly, the medium model I think is the best one anyway. And so I can just, I can be done. I just need to get back to it.
Did you find you need to train that model with, well, I don't know, ArcMax and RAID Z and other ZFS specific terminology? That was my assumption.
So the thing that Whisper does really well is ignoring, like, it takes away about 80% of the work. Like,
Okay.
I've done a few of these now manually where, it's like you're removing and like weird stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, and you spend all of your time doing that stuff. And when you run these things through Whisper, they actually get chunked up into sentences fairly well. And so you start at the end of that 80% of workload, and now you're just like, oh yeah, maybe I'll grep for ZFS and do search replace or that kind of stuff, right? So there's like several of them are completely finished, and then there's a few left that have kind of been taken to that 80% level.
Okay.
And yeah, so I would imagine at this point it's more like running it through regex to search for common stuff. So that shouldn't actually be that hard. I can go back to the regex that I was using before I discovered the Whisper stuff.
Okay, cool.
But I am interested, if anybody is an expert in this, I'm certainly interested in like, um, hey, it would be easier if you just did this, or you can run it on the cloud or whatever. I've been avoiding running it on the cloud because the GPU on the cloud seems pretty expensive. So,
Well, you are our resident
Steve,
expert.
I have an idea for you, but we should probably discuss that off the record. How you can
okay.
cheaply get a 16 gig VRAM virtual machine.
When do you want to chat? Like, I can hang around afterwards if you want.
Yeah, just afterwards as a further sample.
Yeah, I'm all ears.
Welcome, Daniel. So we are off the rails on trying to find iconography for the next User and Developer Summit logo, and we are arguing over what is currently the smallest park in the US. Is it your New York? Is it my Portland, or somewhere in between? Very
I was
important topic
mistaken.
here.
It wasn't a park. It's the smallest privately owned piece of land, which is like
Ah,
this little triangle that the person kept getting chunks of his land taken by eminent domain, and he absolutely refused to sell that little section as just a kind of spite to New York.
Okay, okay. That's probably $500,000 postage stamp.
It's not much bigger than a postage stamp. There's like a little plaque there.
Okay, the world's smallest millions. Okay, but we're Daniel, do you have any topics? Please rescue us here.
I don't know. I want to know how to run Whisper myself so I don't have to pay the OpenAI overloads.
That's what Steve was getting into, and we thank him for it as our resident expert. And I was surprised that one does not train it per se for CFS terms. One just gets better. Well, I guess
Well,
removal and
it's good for medicine. It's like good
Ooh.
for medical terms, which is crazy. Like usually I have to pay $1 million for Dragon and train it like crazy for stuff like that. So yeah, I've been pretty impressed with what it can do, but I've only really used the API mostly.
To a local instance, or is there like Whisper in the cloud?
Yeah, you can just use the API to send your blood sample and all of your information and money to the cloud, and
Huh.
and then they'll do it. And there's a like a Whisper streaming. I've never needed it, but apparently it's pretty cool. Though obviously, if we get hosted, want to host it.
Oh, damn it, Japan. They've taken over as the smallest park? Really? Really?
Cut it in half.
Yeah.
Making it 2 parks.
Sheesh.
And Michael, we could do Bob's Red Mill.
This is true, but it's Milwaukee, is it not? And poor Bob passed away a year or two ago.
Well, they just sold it and closed down that facility, so we could actually have the conference there.
Oh goodness, no kidding. Okay. That or Dave's Killer Bread. I mean, dude, let's violate some trademarks here.
That's right next door, isn't it?
It is. Or, well, no longer. What? Okay, well, okay, let's get back on topic. Of course, gee, that's the bridge my daughter made in elementary school for the bridge project. It's like, okay, yeah, it's all been done, and we did that already, and donuts are pretty universal. The train station is somewhat unique. I'll go with that.
The
I'll
Pioneer
put that on the
Courthouse.
list. It's a big bunch of steps. It's like what, bricks? Like, anyway.
I own a brick in there.
What's that?
I own a brick in there.
Oh, you do? Sweet. We should have a OpenZFS brick there just because. Anyhow. So, uh, 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 Daniel, rescue us. Do you have any ZFS diff salvation stories? What's the word I'm looking for? Where it came to the rescue because I'm thinking it'll be great for finding hotspots in a storage system, and it could be done very lightweight. It sure beats rsync crawling over the entire file system looking for criteria changes where it's like, hey, this changed. Go worry about it further.
I can't think of any particular rescue stories right now, but I just thought of a topic.
Oh, yes. Oh, sweet. What you got? Beverages?
Okay. So I was thinking, like, if you have a ton of instances on a server, and they're all clones of each other, well, when they're booted or they're loading stuff from the disk, that memory is shared, isn't it? Like if it's a clone, like that could help accelerate caching. So imagine you have a million whatever Docker containers, but and for me it would be Beehive and jail. If that's common data, isn't there caching benefits to?
Yes.
In the Arc?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
the Arc will definitely keep the common stuff cached if it's being heavily used.
That's one of the reasons why block cloning is interesting to me. That I have several use cases in mind which would profit from the ability to let it just diverge and then kind of offline opportunistically dedub back because I have like just one shift working on this and then overnight I could dedub and then replicate it off.
This could turn out to be some fairly significant savings. So this would be like, I mean, are they doing this in Kubernetes? Are people thinking about this and containering and clustering?
You invented Joyent.
Oh, I see.
Maybe.
And even more powerful, you could use it to get the equivalent of clones with block cloning.
Right.
Or some, not completely, but the equivalent of getting rebasable clones so that you could reduplicate after upgrading and so on. So that you can actually forward port your modifications to something deduplicated without having to enable full file system level dedup.
Right. So if I have 90% of a database and then there's a container that writes a little bit on that, and then I could duplicate that or clone or duplicate that across a million tenants and profit.
Sure. If
Sure.
they don't have lots of per tenant data, then you could. So if you have one SQLite database and it's, let's say, 10 gigabytes, and you clone it or on a file system containing it, or just on FreeBSD use something like install or cat to copy, or CP to copy it, which would implicitly just attempt to use copy file range and only fall back to normal just copy routine if copy file range fails. So it just attempts to use copy file range to copy that. And if block cloning is enabled on your system and pool, then you get the advantage of that. So something like copying a 300 gigabyte Postgres cluster directory can happen in a few milliseconds.
Right.
Which has caused people to report bugs because they tested this on FreeBSD current and then were shocked and wanted to make a sting about how can you have such a data destroying regression this finished in less than a second. Yeah, thank you for noticing.
So Daniel and friends, has anyone used the persistent arc? The initial pitch was that it's an arc saved off to disk or something that gets kind of replayed back into memory because your workload absolutely depends on the arc. Now, my sick question would be, is there any way to transfer that between machines if you're going to migrate between them, given that you have this aforementioned need for a persistent arc for your performance requirements?
How would that be different than using storage that is exactly that fast for that particular purpose? So you get what I'm saying? Like if you're loading a specific chunk of thing into a persistent arc or even L2 arc, then what's the benefit of that versus just putting it on the drive that is that fast to begin with?
We all like fast drives, that's for sure. Or let me flip that question. Has anyone artificially warmed an arc by reading in the thing that they know they'll need sooner rather than later?
Absolutely.
I used to do that.
You did? What was your use case? Do tell.
Priming the HPC for a big job, or the cache before the HPC hit it. HPC / render farm, whatever you want to call it.
Nice. Okay. Yes.
Char to dev now 3
1000%
times.
for for transcoding and also for graphic ingest.
Cool. And what was your strategy? Just like copy to dump it to dev null with cat, or what did you do?
Cat to dev null.
Okay, cool. Cat to dev. I like it.
At one point, we did it to shared memory and then purged the memory, but it didn't improve. We thought it might improve things a little bit, but it didn't at that kernel level.
Okay.
Just a memory to memory type of thing versus, but no.
Cool.
Yeah, we used to do that. It's not something that we do now. Years ago, our farm outgrew the capacity for our storage to handle our IOPS, so we were doing tricks like that. Eventually, we got into NFS caching engines, like Avir, who Microsoft bought. And then recently, we started using memcached on the local nodes themselves, so all the nodes in the render farm have the ability to cache from the file system. So it's gotten better.
Are there summit topics needing research hiding in there? Do you feel that's solved, or are there unsolved aspects that could use some heads coming together? Going clunk. So please start thinking about topics. As you mentioned, benchmarking always comes up, and libZFS will surely come up. But real-world caching, in and of itself, is a good topic because at scale it can mean very different things.
Also, if you're suffering from too much per block overhead, use bigger blocks.
There you go.
Especially for things like HPC, streaming workloads, video rendering.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have lots of updates in place, you probably want to go beyond 128 kilobyte blocks.
We are 50 or so minutes in. Any other topics, ideas, questions? Sarcastic iconography suggestions for the 2025 Summit logo? Well, then it sounds like we have some whisper topics for after the official call. I invite you to do the honors. Oh, let's see. Andrew, you're good at that.
Like and subscribe.
Thank you, everyone. I'll be around a few.